too. I've got my sweater on.
And here we go. Welcome to another Tuesday evening. We got the crowds here with the teacher's room at iTDi, and we're very, very happy to have Kathleen Kampa with us tonight. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, nice to see you, Stephen.
Yeah, you're looking very colorful there.
Today was my last Halloween party at home, so thus the skeleton, the jack-o'-lanterns, the witch's dress, and the nice orange sweater.
Cool.
Saved for this time of year.
And now, do you enjoy doing these Halloween parties? Are they more work than fun, or how are they for you?
Oh, we had so much fun. 2 weeks ago, I had my first one, and I had 4-year-olds. They were all princesses.
Oh, wow.
Princesses covered with glitter. It was so much fun. We sang and sang and sang. We sang and danced for 30 minutes. And then we played some simple games, really, really fun games like scooping up the ghosts into the bowl and counting how many ghosts and how many spiders. And we trick-or-treat around the house.
Oh, wow.
So we have a little tatami room area and we circle around the table. And so we sing my trick-or-treat song and then we pretend that we're going to different houses. So of course, I mean, it's so much fun. I have a wild imagination, and so we can kind of recreate those things so that when the kids actually do go trick-or-treating or experience Halloween in another way, they've had a good experience. We made spiders. Just a moment, I'll show you. Where's my spider, Chuck? Here.
Hey, Barbara's here as well. And anybody, you're allowed to, if you want to turn your videos on, feel free to. And if you're happy, and there you go. We got a ghost appeared.
Yes, cool.
Okay, go ahead.
This is a little spider. I saw this in one of the Facebook groups, and so I thought my kids were learning about counting their arms and their legs and their fingers and their toes.
Yeah.
I thought we would do spiders. So that was part of our Halloween party, and then we ate food. They had popcorn and little ghost things and ice cream, and yeah.
Wow.
So, really so this was my third party here at home. And then the kids will have parties at school tomorrow. But we've been singing and dancing and, yeah, making a lot of new Halloween songs. It's been fun.
I hear that you're a little bit famous among my friends for your music. Can you tell us about that for anybody who doesn't know about your work?
So I write a lot of songs for young children. Yeah, these are my CDs. So
oh yeah, absolutely. Show us whatever you have, because we have.
So those are the 2 CDs. This was the first one that I created.
Why don't you say the name for us, Kathleen?
Called Kathy Kampa's Special Days and Holidays.
Okay.
And so it's a group of songs that you can use to celebrate every day and special days, like for birthdays, Valentine's Day, Halloween, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Wow.
So that was really fun. And when the first song that I heard in my head was one called Skeleton Dance. And so my kids from the age of 2 up to usually about 3rd grade really love doing skeleton dance. And so we do that for Halloween, but also for other times of the year.
Now, sorry, go ahead. Go on to the second one. Go on to the second one.
And then the second CD I produced is called Jump, Jump, Everyone. And I found that I was doing a lot of songs with like TPR movement. And so I thought, I think this is really helpful for teachers to have some simple strategies for building movement in their classrooms, along with building language at the same time. So these are songs that you can use for like moving around the classroom, moving in one place. And then I wrote things like for different seasons. So when it's rainy and the rain is falling down and the autumn leaves falling. Right. So that's what this CD is about. Yeah, transitional songs too. So when teachers are moving from one place to another in the classroom, it helps them to do that.
So now,
were you all the words in the CD? So if the teacher wants to use the words, the lyrics are all there, and my kids did cute pictures along with it.
Excellent. Now, did you have a music background, or did you stumble into this?
Well, I have a music background. When I was in college, I studied elementary education and music.
Oh.
And we had a few movement classes, dance classes. So I took whatever I could along that line. And I've been teaching music. So part of my job, I teach as a specialist teacher at Seisen International School in Tokyo. And part of my work is working with the kids through music, through dance, and building English language skills at the same time. All of us are English teachers at school, so we all need to continue to build language with the kids. So every day is a chance to think, is there another way to teach this? Is there a new song? And so I write songs on a regular basis.
I have a theater background in university and on stage and musicals and theater dance and choreography, and so I'm on your team completely.
Oh, that's fantastic. We should do a show together.
Yeah, the power of all of that. But give us a little bit of why is music so effective, do you think? Well, what's the I know you could go on for hours, but give us a digest version of what you've seen in the response.
Yeah, I think that especially with very young learners, so the children I teach are from the ages of 2 to 12.
Yeah.
And so I can say with the very young learners especially that music is that magical element that hooks them. Some of the students in my classes at school, they'll learn a song and then they'll come by the classroom and I'll hear them in the hallway, skeleton, skeleton, skeleton dance, and they'll just pass by and make sure that I'm trying to hear them. So I think that's one of the important things, first of all, is it just captures their heart and their emotion, and it's such a positive experience. But when you think about it from like educationally, you can say that there's a lot of repetition in songs, and so that repetition is really good for helping them reinforce language.
Yeah.
It's fun because of the pronunciation aspect. For example, one of the songs I wrote is Trick or Treat. So you hear those repetition of sounds, and so the kids practice those patterns. I've written songs like Marching Monsters, builds their phonemic awareness. So marching monsters, skipping skeletons, waltzing witches, jumping jack-o'-lanterns. And so all of that, and then Happy Halloween. So all of that is really fun for the kids. So we can listen and say, what do you notice? Oh, marching monsters, it's the same.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to put in some of those different patterns, like a pattern predictable book. It's really easy to add like, I see a ghost, I see a ghost, ooh. There's a lot of repetition that's built into those things. And I think maybe you know that theory, the SSIYH phenomena.
Go ahead.
SSIYH, song stuck in your head.
Right.
And so for young learners, it's so powerful because as soon as they've learned that song, it keeps repeating in their heads. And so it's easy to build language. If the song is a good song, that language keeps repeating in their heads. And so
and now, do you see this kind of effect at all ages or any kinds of peaks? Or you're talking about very young learners right now. How high can you go in the age range?
I see a difference when the children hit like that, like around age 8 and 9. I think they approach songs differently.
Oh.
Like for them, it's like, it's a little bit different adding movement. Like they don't want to move around the classroom as much. They're more like, we'll listen to the song. They're able to start reading words. And so it's a different approach. It's like filling in the blank. Like, I wonder what the next missing word is. And so they can read the words. And so it just has a different feeling to them. With the young learners, you see that it's like effervescent. It captures their imagination. With the older learners, we've crossed over into this different way of thinking. You know, they're 8 or 9. So they love listening to the songs. And I think there are kids that really catch, like, as Howard Gardner talked about, there are children who are, he called them the different kinds of smarts. I don't know if there's really different kinds of smarts, but I think as teachers, if we use different ways of presenting information, I can see in my students will latch on in different ways. They'll understand it. They'll remember it better if they've heard it in a song. And the more different ways that I can present it, the better it is, I think, for those students. So I think music is just really powerful in that way. And I mean, a lot of brain research has talked about, Eric Jensen's talked about how powerful it is for building fluency in language. And even the 2-year-olds, even my 2-year-olds, by singing those songs, their fluency in language is so much stronger because they've been
Absolutely.
reading the songs.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when you first started doing this, uh, were there many other people doing it in the young learners' English songs? And I think of Carolyn Graham as one of the only. Did you have other influences?
Well, I know Carolyn, and so Carolyn and I have spent a lot of time together, and
Oh,
she was the person who recommended getting my master's in TESOL, because she said, I think you'll understand this much better. And I think I've been teaching for a very long time. I started teaching when I was actually 16 years old, helping my dance teacher. And I have 4 younger sisters, and so I often help my mom with my sisters. And um, throughout college years, I was doing teaching on the side. And so I think as you look at um, people in front of you, like Carolyn, she was someone who said, yeah, you really should do this master's degree. But as far as other people who have done songs for kids, Rafi is a person whose music I really enjoyed. He wasn't
absolutely.
really someone who you would say is just for English language teaching, but he has a lot of pattern predictable songs.
Yeah.
And so that's great. We love the music of Linda Arnold. Linda Arnold had some really cute music for kids. And so as my kids were growing up, we have a son that was born in 1988, another in 1992. We listened to a lot of songs with the kids and found people who we really loved. And Red Grammar, of course, and Red Grammar actually wrote music with one of the textbooks that we wrote.
Wow.
So I think that's listening to great children's musicians. There are a lot of the standard songs too, like you think of Hickory Dickory Dock.
Yep.
There's some great phonemic, the sounds that are repeating. Hickory Dickory, you hear the rhyming words,
Yep.
and then Dickory Dock. So there's a lot that we have learned over the years and using those ideas to put into practice. When I did my master's thesis, I looked into the use of music in children's teaching. And so that's my thesis, and it's available on academia.edu. And so people can look up. I compared how Japanese teachers and foreign teachers use music in the classroom.
That leads into a perfect question I want to ask you about. How did your Japanese colleagues relate to your use of music?
Well, at the international school that I'm teaching at, I have colleagues who are both, some who are Japanese and some who are not Japanese. And so I think they all really appreciate the use of music. I think it helps them out a lot. I think Japanese themselves are very good at music.
Yes.
Well trained in music.
Yes.
And so I think they see that as something that's really important. I think they're maybe a little bit more, they're more precise maybe. I
Yes.
think I'm a little bit more lively when I'm teaching music with the kids. And so I want it to be effervescent and I want it to be fun and lively.
Yep.
So I've seen a difference with teachers over the years that they've embraced this style a little bit more in getting the whole child.
Do you think people need to be good singers in order to use music in the classroom?
I don't think they need to be good singers. I think if they can't sing, I think they can use recorded music.
Yeah.
I think use the words with the rhythm.
Yep.
It's really helpful if you can carry a pitch, because I think if you can't match the pitch, I think that's kind of hard for the kids.
Yeah.
But I do know teachers who can't sing, but they're like, they can say the words in rhythm with the kids. And so if they get that happening first, and then you can add the CD later, or they can try to sing, I think that's good too.
Yeah, yeah. I did 9 years working at an elementary school as part of the whole 2 or 3 times a week, and it was absolutely, they would revolt or mutiny if I didn't start off with all the regular songs and chants that they were waiting all week to get to do again. So it just literally became bread and butter for so many of those lessons.
And I think that's a really important point too, that my students will say, oh, Miss Kampa, we need to sing da-da-da-da, right? And so children will always ask you, can we do this song again? Can we do this song again? I think I've danced skeleton dance probably 35 or 40 times in the last month, because every class says, can we do skeleton dance? And even one student who couldn't articulate skeleton dance, he'd go, Miss Kampa, and he'd show me, this is the first movement, right? And then the other kids are, yeah, let's do that. So
Yeah.
I think you're, like you said, there are songs that become favorites in our heart.
Yeah.
And even kids will say, oh, we do, like you said, we do this first and second and third and fourth, that they have a sense of this is the routine that's important for a class. And for
Mm.
young learners, there's a sense of security in having that first song. This is our greeting song. This is the first song that we do in moving about. And
Yep. Yep. Wow. So
painfully
yeah, I'm looking at it. There
And
we
I
go.
think, like Anne said, I think if you're reasonable at singing, I think there's just that sense of really being enthusiastic and starting with the rhythm. I think everybody can get a sense of the rhythm of a song,
Yep.
and then you can get moving. And like I try to catch the energy that the kids have. So like Anne wrote, skeleton dance is a serious workout. If you see the kids doing this, the kids are the ones who will start to like bounce, and like that captures that energy. And so then I do that with them,
Yep.
and now I can't help but jump.
I used to lead sing songs in high school student camps and things like that. And we always said if we put out 80%, we only got back half of what we put out. So we had to
Right,
put out a lot to once it got momentum, and once you hit that kind of level that everybody's into it, then you can back off. But you certainly need to get it going, right?
right. And I think if you look at the magic that's happening in those classrooms, like I had my buttercups today. They're my 2-year-olds, and there's just something awesome about
Yeah.
teaching that age group. And they giggle, and they things that are absolutely so simple,
Yep.
they absolutely love. And so we had been done, like I had my pumpkin and jack-o'-lantern. I don't have one here. Oh, here. So we had done like pumpkin and jack-o'-lantern.
Oh,
And for
nice.
those kids, like as soon as you turn it around, pumpkin, pumpkin, jack-o'-lantern, they just giggle. And so it's that sense of having so much fun and excitement. And these are just little kids. And that's where you said, put out the excitement too. You capture that. And it's just constantly back and forth. They
Right.
love it, you love it, and it makes you just love your job so much more.
Yep. This is just my last comment on this whole music side of the talk was for years we battled, myself and another native teacher, battled with the junior high school girls after summer vacation until about before Christmas was when they were hitting puberty at its peak and lack of concentration, and they were using textbooks way back then. It was just a nightmare. And finally we threw up our hands one day and said, let's do a Beatles karaoke show instead. And for the next 6 or 7 years, the students did costumes. They played the broomsticks as they all
Wow.
memorized a Beatles song. We did it in groups. We videoed it all. It was just brilliant. And it was like it's the memory that I see students 10, 15 years later, they still remember that. And it took us years to figure out that during that time when everything was going crazy inside of them, music was the answer.
That's fabulous. It's great when you can come up with fun things like that
Yeah.
really help kids connect. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure they learned a lot of valuable language on top of it. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And got some confidence and all kinds of stuff. We're
right. It's
successful.
not always just the language, but there's a lot of other things, that being able to
Yep.
communicate with each other, connecting with each other,
Yep.
being able
Yep.
to express themselves with their gestures. And
Yeah. And they get very little opportunity once they get to junior high school. They get very little opportunity to be creative, it seems. Where in my school, the elementary school was very experiential.
Right.
But then once you get to grade 7, it's sit there and take notes and listen. And that must be such a shock to their little system.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, here, let's go. Big change. When did you decide you wanted to be a teacher, and were you actually teaching for a while before you realized this is what you wanted to do for a while as a career?
Well, I started teaching, as I mentioned before,
Yep.
when I was 16. So I was taking some dance classes, and my dance teacher said, "Would you like to come and help?" And I had a chance to work with young kids, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I love this.
Oh,
This is just amazing." And it wasn't an extremely creative situation, but I loved it at that moment in time. And so when I was getting ready to go off to college, my dad said, "You're really good at math. You should go into math and go into business." And I said, "Oh, Dad, I love teaching. I love kids." And he said, "If you're going to be a teacher," he said, "you're going to have to be one of the best,
right.
because that's the only way you can do it." He said, "You're going to have to passionately love what you're doing." And so I went to college and I studied elementary education and music and took some dance classes. And I thought, wow, this is great. And then I said to my parents, "I'd like to student teach in Japan." And they're like, "What?"
Why did you, what was the connection to Japan?
Because I really wanted to meet students who were international students. And my aunt had a Japanese pen pal, and I was just fascinated with Japanese culture. So
Wow.
I had spent a year, my sophomore year of university. I was traveling with a group called Up With People,
Yep,
and
I know.
we sang and danced all around the world. We performed at the Super Bowl halftime, and in my group, I had one Japanese friend, and he had said to me, his nickname was Bon Bon. He's called Kyoki Aiba. And he said, "Oh, you have to come to Japan." And so I thought, well, why not? Why not do my student teaching in Japan? So I student taught at Sacred Heart International School,
Yep.
which is over in Hiro. And I thought, this is just amazing. There are students from all over the world. It's like a mini Up With People. So I thought, this is what I want to do. I really want to teach internationally. And at that point, I student taught in the kindergarten. I student taught with grade 5 and 6. I thought, I really adore the little children. This is my sweet spot. They get
Wow.
me. I have the humor that works for them.
Yep.
And I can teach all ages, but I love that age group.
The,
And
sorry, the age group, what's the low, like from what age to what age is your sweet
so
spot?
I think from age 2 up through like age 8, I think those are
Wow.
I really love that age group. And I think a lot of people don't really like teaching young learners,
Yeah,
but
me.
if you, well, and there's this sparkle in their eyes. I mean, it's
Yep.
like we just connect.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
that's like
never, yeah. I
the
can't
songs
explain
that I
why.
hear.
I said
Yeah,
I did that for 9 years and I learned how to do it well, but I never felt anything. Isn't that weird?
right,
Yeah.
right.
So I'm really happy you know your sweet spot.
Yeah, and I understand the older kids. I think it's a different kind of understanding when you work with like third grade through sixth grade. There's a
Yeah.
different understanding there, and I love those kids too. But it's a different way. Like one is like sparkly, and the other one is it's fun and it's interesting and it's helping them learn and grow. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so so anyway, I did go into teaching, and I student taught here in Japan. And I thought, yes, they said teach back in your country for 2 years and then apply overseas. And
Wow.
so I married to my co-author, which was great. And we came overseas, and I'm teaching at the school, Seisen International School, which is like Sacred Heart School. It's an all-girls Catholic school.
Yep.
We're a PYP school, so primary years program school. It's an IB school. We have a Montessori kindergarten, so we have that influence in our school. We have inquiry happening. There's just exciting things happening all the time.
And
So
what grades are you teaching?
so I teach from the 2-year-olds up through grade 6.
Oh,
And
wow.
my specialist subject areas are music and dance, but we all teach English. And so I work with all the homeroom teachers and the specialist teachers as we look at what they call units of inquiry. So for example, our first graders right now are learning about living things.
Yep.
And so I collaborate with the first grade teachers to talk about how can I help you build English language? How can we talk about living things through kinesthetic movement? How can we talk about it through music, not just being a thematic song about animals, but what are the big ideas that are going to cross over? So when we think of living things, we put things into groupings. That's a big part of it, classifying. So we can look at, like in a music classroom, we also classify things into different groupings. So not just saying these are animal songs, but this is the bigger idea, is classification.
Yep. Yep.
So that's something that we're doing right now with the kids. the kindergarten children are learning about homes. And so some units are really easy to make a link to. Other units
Yep.
are not so
Yep.
easy. The fourth graders.
Are these inquiry units, are they set the same each year, or do they continually change?
A program of inquiry is set and then reviewed like every 2 to 3 years.
I see. Yeah.
So for example, with the kindergarten, we have a 3-year program with our units of inquiry because our children are from age 3 to 6.
Yep.
So we have 4 different units that we teach in the kindergarten over a period, 4 different units. So then over a period of the 3 years, they'll have 12 different units. And so the buttercups have something the little ones have something totally different.
Right.
And then when they move into 1st grade to 6th grade, they have a program of inquiry for their elementary school years. And sometimes the units are changed. So we needed to pull in a unit on transportation. And so that's something that's moved up or down a grade level, and a unit on courses with science units, arts units, units about like self-awareness. So as much as possible, I get myself into those units and think, how can I teach these concepts or these ideas through a kinesthetic approach?
Yep.
What do I need to know about movement to build those skills with the kids? What do I need to know about music? What do I need to know about language? What are the important vocabulary words that they're learning? What are the concepts that I can build?
How many kids are you working with at one point?
So usually it's anywhere from 20 to 25 kids in a class.
Okay.
The biggest groups I see, like we have a kindergarten sing-along session. So that's 3 groups of kids together. So that's about 70, 75 kids.
Wow.
I have a big sing-along session for all of grade 1 and 2 and 3. That's huge. So it's managing everything when we're singing together.
Wow. I've got 3 or 4 different topics crashing in my brain right now. I want to talk about some of your publishing, your books and things.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about what you've learned through your teaching career about how people learn language.
Okay.
And then I also want to find out a little bit about what you're interested in these days, personally and professionally. So those are the 3 areas we're going to, and we've only got 30 minutes left. So
okay. We'll talk about our books first. So Chuck has just finished all the dishes.
Good man, Chuck.
Yes. So Chuck and I are co-authors.
Yay, Chuck is here.
I'm really not dressed for YouTube, but I'll do my best.
So. Okay.
So this is Chuck, and gosh, what year was it? 96. I had given a workshop in Osaka. I think it was even before that, 1994. I given a workshop in Osaka.
Yep.
And I heard myself say, I'm ready to start writing, which I was so surprised because I really hadn't thought about it at that point in time. And so I met Leslie Kustoff, who was working for Prentice.
I know Leslie, yep.
And Leslie said, yep, or someone handed me her card and said, this is Setsuko Toyama handed me her card. And she said, you should start writing. And so put these things down and show it to Leslie. And Leslie said, it's good, but maybe you should do a little more research. And so I researched more and came up with some ideas. And Leslie was being hired by Oxford.
Yep.
And so my ideas went to Oxford, and I also approached someone else from Oxford, and they said, yes, we like what you're talking about. Looks like you're perfect for young learners. And so at that point then, the idea went to New York City. I was flown there, and we talked about these ideas. And then they brought Chuck on to work with me because I said, there's no way being a full-time teacher and a full-time mother that I could do this. And so the first book we wrote, we have it here.
Great.
Was Magic Time.
Yep.
And the idea was that children would use a multiple intelligence approach to learning language. So they would have beautiful pictures. So we've got things like that. They'd have beautiful pictures. There'd be like a story. So they would see one page, and then the verbs would create a change in the pictures.
Very strong music and movement component as well. There's a chant or a song for every page. So we really wanted to tap into that. Very strong motivation for kids. So.
Yeah, and so the kids could always like the Where's Waldo, finding things in the pictures. So there's always all the vocabularies in the pictures, but it was
What,
also
what age is Magic Time aimed at? What age?
from 4 to 8-year-olds.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so it was fun. So the kids could find those words in the pictures in those big scenes. And then when they're doing the songs and chants, all the vocabulary is right there.
Yeah.
And so we show teachers, like, how do you use like the sight words to start teaching? The songs are really simple. I see a star, I see a circle. Really pattern predictable songs, easy for teachers to sing, easy for kids to remember. And
Exactly.
So if Kathleen, if you're the writing the songs and the music and movement side, Chuck, what are you doing?
well, Chuck is also really good at writing songs.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I do a lot of songwriting myself,
Yeah.
in fact.
Oh,
Yes.
cool.
In fact, we just had a project this last year with a major publisher. A lot of our songs are going to be featured in textbooks used in 5th and 6th grade classrooms around
For the
Japan.
Momo Show.
So we're very
wonderful.
excited about that. Right. So we've been writing music for a long time. And of course, as Kathy said, the emphasis was on pattern predictable, making sure there was a lot of strong repetition, that the songs were easy to understand, easy to sing for teachers as well as for students. And so, yeah. But actually, to be honest, when you look at the business of writing, there's an incredible amount of time spent with editors, moving materials back and forth, ideas back and forth, testing things in the classroom, making sure that everything really has value. And so there was just a lot of time spent for me on the computer, making sure that all of this was being done, creating a lot of content. Kathy would come home, we'd share ideas, illustrations. It was
and what we wanted to do.
Sorry, are you guys often on the same track, or are you on different tracks that meld together in the creative side?
Right.
Well, we usually throw out lots of different ideas. I mean, we don't always agree on everything, but I think now that we've been married this long, we know what each other is good at.
Right.
But when we wrote Magic Time, what we were trying to say is, children love to imagine things.
Yeah.
So how can we take them into that world of imagination? So if we want to talk about fruits and vegetables, well, let's put them on Broadway. That would be more fun. Or if we're talking about body parts, let's have them do like finger painting, because kids love finger painting and foot painting.
Yeah.
And what would that look like? And there was always an element in every picture of something magical happening.
Yeah.
Something changes in the picture. And so that's what we wanted kids. Kids love those fine little details.
And did that title come at the beginning of the project or towards the end?
It came as we were writing it.
Yeah.
We felt the other part of the course is called English Time, and that's a really great, solid name for a course.
Yeah.
But we felt for young learners, our part was a little bit more magical, and so that's why we wanted it to call it Magic Time.
Yeah.
So we felt for little kids, it was a great title. And
yeah, we really wanted to tap into the world of imagination that children experience, and they can cross so easily into the world of imagination.
Absolutely.
We moved into our next course, Everybody Up. That was moving very much into real world situations, real world content, which also resonates with certain teachers and with certain, depending on what you need. Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
And I think with young learners, there's that, like when we have fiction and nonfiction, right? We need to have both with kids.
Yeah.
Well, just the other day, one of the teachers said to me, we've been doing so much nonfiction in our class, and we had done a magical story about Halloween. And she said, it was so great. We had the characters, we had the setting, the spooky forest, the haunted house. She said it was such a relief that the kids could finally have something a little bit different. And so I think in that way too, with English language teaching, it's great to have both. It's great to have the imaginary things, but it's also good to have the real life situations.
It's all about motivating kids. Kids respond so well to both the literary world, the world of imagination, as well as the world around them, the real world, the world that they experience every day. And they live very much in the present. They are very enlightened individuals, children. It's amazing to work with them because they are, humans tend to live in the world of the mind. Children live in the world that exists around them, and they are extremely curious because all of these things are happening around them and they want to know about them. So you just give them the opportunities and the language they need to be able to discover it. And that's really what all of our textbooks are about. All of our courses are about. So,
Yeah.
What are you working on now and the publishing side?
Well, the last book that we wrote was Oxford Discovered. That's this one.
You forgot everybody
Oh,
else.
sorry. Here's Everybody Up. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, and Everybody Up was published in 2012, and then again a second edition in 2016 or 2011, and then 2016. So it's been very successful. Again, this is real world content. It's connecting students, the language they learn, to their own personal experience. And then the third course we wrote was Oxford Discover, which is a high-end primary course for students in bilingual schools or students who have a stronger language development and just need extra practice to develop their literacy skills, reading and writing, as well as their conversational skills and practice. And then that also, very importantly, builds on the 21st century skills of creativity, critical thinking, collaboration. We get students working together, and then building communication skills in the process.
Yeah. I see those 4 C's you've just mentioned. I see that as the, my university has a high school, Notre Dame Jogakuin, and they've actually incorporated those 4 C's, as I found out has my old high school, Sabo. So it seems like lots of people are grabbing onto that and finally making some changes.
Well, and it's a way of not just isolating vocabulary and grammar, but connecting ideas together. So I always think of connections as that last C, where you're being creative or you're being a critical thinker. You have to start connecting ideas together. Yeah. And so that's the cool thing about my work, is that I'm always connecting.
Yeah.
You know, this and the teachers are doing that, we can just connect ideas together. And so Oxford Discovered, we've most recently just done a second edition. So that's what we've been working on, is the second edition. And then, like Chuck mentioned, the songs that we just finished.
Yeah, we're very excited about 21st century skills. We think, you know, what we're really trying to do in the ELT world is not just develop English language speakers, but to prepare them for what English language skills will take them to. So when you consider, why are our students learning English? Well, they're going to be using that English across cultures, across borders, and therefore they need to have a very, very strong sense of collaboration, working together, communicating across borders. They need to be problem solvers because they need to take on all of the global issues that are facing us today. So it's wonderful to feel that we're a part of that progress that's taking place.
And very much on the front lines, hey, with the youngest learners getting that, which I'm seeing now at my old elementary school, doing a lot on problem solving skills and sort of problem-based learning and all kinds of stuff like that.
Very exciting. It's a very exciting development.
Yeah, and we were just in China in June and met a lot of teachers and even some of the students at the schools, and we were impressed. I mean, their English language ability has just soared. Yeah. And so we're seeing them they're reading fiction, nonfiction, they're doing beautiful writing, showing us their projects. It was incredible. We were so impressed.
Yeah. Okay, let me twist to this next, the second to last question is somewhat difficult in that sense of putting it into simple answers about what have you learned about how young people actually learn language over the course of your careers as teachers. I certainly made every mistake imaginable in the first few years and shudder at what I have students do, but what's the core of it in your minds?
Do you want to go first? Okay. So I think one thing I learned from Howard Gardner was the sense of having a variety of ways to teach children language. And so I think that every learner is unique in the way that they come to language. And I think the more support that we can give them by using visuals, and especially with really young learners, they need visuals, they need hands-on things to use. I think that helps them a lot. I think being very clear about what it is we're teaching. So if you have those visuals, it helps them to understand that better. Giving them chances to move with it, singing songs with it, drawing pictures, doing things with partners, doing things on their own. putting things into categories, finding how things are the same and different. I think that helps children a lot when they're learning language. Being very clear about what the sounds are, being clear about grammar patterns. I think just being very explicit about that helps a lot in building language. I think sometimes when we first started teaching, maybe we had too much language. And so I always look at what's the scaffolding. And you can say as a teacher, this is what the lesson is going to be, but each child in your room is different.
Absolutely.
And so even like tonight, I had a group of 3 girls who come to my class. Each one of them learns language in a very different way. And so we can't totally generalize this is the way it is, but I can say what's important is that I know that they start here and then I can build up here and build with each little bit. And sometimes maybe you take a jump and you think, wow, that was too big. Like Vygotsky talked about the zone of proximal development. That we have to be aware of what's that next step. And if as a teacher you've made a mistake, well, then you just have to take that step backwards again. Or like Krashen talked about the I+1. I mean, if we know what those steps are, it's so much easier to take the kids to the next level.
But you've touched on so many important things. I've forgotten some of them already, but just that, do you remember the first few years teaching when you were so wound up with what am I doing next and where am I going? And I've just gotten to that point. They talk about the 10,000 hours of anything. I can hover over top of my class now, watching the details of what's happening because the mechanics are so easy now. And that for me is where all the real golden stuff takes place. When I can pick up and, I've got that in Japanese, that yo-yu, that extra space in my brain to be able to take advantage of things in the moment.
That's
right. And I think there's that sense of introducing things in a lesson and building it up and seeing the kids applying it and making those connections. I think that's really important for the kids. And maybe new teachers have a hard time doing that. What are the different steps that you can do as far as scaffolding language? And I think it's not just, there's that technical stuff, but there's still always that sense of magic. Like you have to, and it's a conversation back and forth, not so much verbally, but there's that sense of, we've talked about this, and then wow, maybe that didn't work. And then I have to come back and forth and think of a second way to introduce this. Maybe that didn't work for you, but it worked for somebody else.
But again, you're focusing on that observational skill, which is so important. I try to tell in my trainings, tell young teachers to just keep working at it until you get to that point of being able to do the lesson and watch it at the same time. Hey?
I think when I first started, I remember spending 2 hours to do lesson plans for a 1-hour class and being so intent on making sure that I taught the material that I didn't pay attention to the students, right?
Exactly. Get out of my way. I've got a lesson to do.
Yes, exactly. And it's going to be taught no matter what, right? As we get experience, we realize that you observe the students and you get very, very good at reading your students. Then you teach the students. You don't teach the lesson. You teach the students.
There you go.
And you make sure that they've come out of it with having gained something really valuable.
Are you guys always this good? You're just like right on.
But I think, the thing that's like, today I had a student cut her finger, a student hurt her ankle, and I think the most important thing is you're always there caring for each one of your students. And I think if you're trying to make each student feel like this was a great day in this class, I can like a pat on the back or saying, wow, I noticed you did this today. That was the best that you have done. And
affirmation, I think, is one of my key words in teaching, affirming students for who they are, because I think confidence plays such a significant role in how students learn, and especially for language, because it takes courage to step out and try to speak in a language not your own. And so to affirm kids, to give them confidence to say, it's okay, and to create an environment, a classroom environment where students feel safe, that they can make mistakes, that they can try, and that they feel affirmed in the process.
And I really like that point you said about making mistakes, because I think sometimes, especially here in Japan, children don't want to be a risk taker to try something new because they're so worried about making mistakes. And like with my students, like I'll say to them, okay, like these are some like the 3-letter words we're learning, like at, they're
Yep.
sounding it. So if they can read it, they put it in one pile. If they can't read it, they put it in another pile. But it's their decision. I can do this. I can't do this
Yep.
yet. Y-E-T, yet. I
Yep.
can't do it. Then we work just on this pile because this is what they don't know. And then, wow, look at this. Today, now you could read all those cards. That was your success.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same for everyone, but that was that student's success. And
Very
I was saying the other day in a teacher training that I have yet to meet a student who didn't have an opinion about something if they felt safe enough to give it. You know, and so I spend the first month of every new class building that community, building trust, trying to give the students a sense of where they fit into the class. Are you the mood maker? Are you the really good listener? Are you the one that everybody goes to because you keep the best little diary notebook of what the homework is, you know? Are you the support? All this stuff, just build that trust.
They all belong. Yeah.
Your class sounds amazing.
That sounds
Well,
very
so
good.
does yours. We want to go see each other's classes now.
Thanks.
Wow.
It
Okay,
is
let's
wonderful,
wrap up
wonderful.
with the last question on well, personally and professionally, what are some things that you're interested in that's somewhat new in your life?
Well, we are exercising almost every day or every other day.
Wow.
We're building strength because I need to make my bones stronger and we need to make our muscles stronger. And we think at this point in our life, it's important.
There's this whole world of YouTube online personal trainers that you can tap into. so we bring them into our living room.
So
Wonderful.
we have resistance bands, and so we're using those.
Right.
We do a program called Has Fit. It's a husband and wife team, which is really fun.
Wow.
And then
Is that live or is that recorded?
It's recorded.
Okay.
Some are live, but mostly
Yeah,
recorded.
mostly recorded.
Mhm.
And then I have some weights that I do, some actual weightlifting and push-ups.
Wow.
So that's one thing I could not do a single push-up in
Yeah.
August.
Yeah.
Could not do a single push-up. And so now I can actually do 5 regular push-ups.
Wow.
Regular push-ups. That's going, and I had a sprained wrist, so that's pretty amazing.
And
Yeah.
Well, professionally, I think if we look at where we want to head in terms of our ELT experience, I think we'd like to reach out to a lot more teachers. And we found that one of our happy discoveries is that there's a lot of teachers who really respond to online content now. If we can get things out on YouTube, if we can get create some more opportunities just like this one,
Yeah.
we can reach a lot more schools, reach a lot more teachers. And so that's exciting. I mean, we're always going to be traveling and get the word out, just in terms of teacher training and how we can help teachers globally. But we like this. We like this opportunity. We'd like to do more of it.
Yeah, it's really been great.
Are you thinking more of the young learner teachers, or do you do all kinds of teachers?
Well, mainly like from age 2 to about age 12.
Our focus is primary, yeah.
Primary.
So the primary environment is really where we place our focus. But in terms of what we can do through those videos, I think there's opportunities to expand. And we like webinars, in fact. We really enjoy the given, the response from participants. And so we'd like to expand on that a little bit more, actually.
And we love topics like 21st century skills and building creativity with the kids. And there are some things that we're really passionate about. And that's what are brain-friendly techniques to use in your classroom?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Using music, using movement. Like there are a lot of things that we do a lot in our classes that, like you said, like I tend to think, what worked well today? What didn't work well? How can I change it up a little bit? What would work best for all the students?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the kind of things that we're reflecting on. But anyway, so that was professionally what we're doing. I've got some stories that I've been telling children, and I've been playing with the stories for a while. And I think stories are a fabulous way to build vocabulary, to build pattern predictable language. The images just stick with the kids. And I think such a fun, memorable way for kids to remember things. So they'll often ask, like, can we do the amazing potato story again today? Can you tell us the apple story? And so that's something that we're working on right now, is thinking about how to produce those. And
Right.
we've got some ideas in place, and so just working little by little
Wow.
full-time work, but
And-
it's so much fun. And
Yeah.
And I'm a novelist, so I've written 2 novels, and I'm working on my 3rd one right now. So that's a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not. Yeah, I'm an indie publisher, so I haven't. I've decided to do that because it allows me to be extremely creative. I don't need to write for the market necessarily. I can write what I feel is necessary and let the public respond. So
let me ask you. My son is 17, and we were talking last night. He's writing a big essay right now for a scholarship application, but he likes it. He really likes the process. And I was talking about things I've read where, you know, some famous writers say, you know, I have to produce 1,000 words a day or whatever their goal is. I'm just curious on the side, how do you keep it moving? What's your own way of pushing forward?
I'm not a formula writer, and I'm disappointed that the internet has created more opportunities for people to be formula writers. I think what we really need is creative writing. So what I do when I write a story is it starts out with characters. I think of characters and personalities, and then it's really very much like a buried treasure, and I'm just digging it out, and I don't know what it looks like. So I'm actually writing that way. So I write very much in the present, and I write at the moment. So I try not to plan ahead too much. I let the characters decide what they're going to do, and they can surprise me sometimes. So that's my form of doing it, and then it creates something quite different than.
Do you have a rule to write every day, or do you have a schedule?
I like to write every day if I can, a couple hours, but I don't always have that opportunity depending on my class schedule. But if I can, I do. But sometimes it's good to just wait 2 or 3 days and let ideas brew, so to speak, and then come back to it. Especially if I feel some blockage, I'll just writer's block. I will give it a little time. What's the name of the stories? Oh, my first, the novel that's most popular is called Subculture, Subculture, Subculture. It's on Amazon Kindle. If you just type my name in Subculture, it'll pop up. It's gotten some good response, so I'm happy.
It's a really gripping novel.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. But anyway, it's writing.
And actually, people would love your short novel, your novelette.
Trivialities.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's fun to write. I do it for the passion of it. I'm not expecting any monetary gain, but I do love it. I do love to write. So.
Yeah. Wow. Well, look at that. It seems like we're at a good place to stop. My daughter has climbed into the car here. She's come out of the cram school.
She doesn't want to appear on the screen.
Yeah, no, she doesn't want. She's 14. Of course, she doesn't want to.
Oh, there she is.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
How was your Juku class?
Not a class. Oh, it wasn't a class. She was just studying on her own.
Okay, well done.
Good.
Great. Good luck to you. I hope your school year is going well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's wrap it up there. I'll turn off the recording.
Okay.
It was nice meeting everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.